In this video, I'm going to show you how to replace the radiator in this Cadillac SRX. Let's get into it. On the inner fender well, these lower 3 screws on the passenger side, we're going to take those out. Use a Phillips head screwdriver. You can take the wheel off if you need to, but you don't necessarily have to. You can just turn it out of the way. And on the driver's side, there's only 2 screws. Underneath, we're going to take these 3 bolts out. Use a 10mm socket. Underneath here, there's screws, little screws all along the front. You're going to take those out. Use a 7mm socket. Just grab the panel, slide it back, and out of the way. You can see where the radiator drain is over on the driver's side. I'm just taking a small piece of tube, just putting it on the end where the drain is, so I can just redirect the coolant. And I'm going to slowly open the drain, just twist it. I'm just using some pliers just to wiggle this out. Be careful not to break it. There we go. And you want to make sure you're doing this when the vehicle is cold. Don't do this when it's hot. Now you're going to take the reservoir cap off. And then the coolant's going to drain a lot faster. Take this upper cover off. I'm just going to use the trim tool. Take all these push pins out. There should be one up there as well. Grab this cover. It should just pop up. You can just slide it out of the way. Now we're going to take all these 10mm bolts out. Just use a 10mm socket. Now on the sides, we're going to take these Phillips head screws out. Just use a Phillips head screwdriver. Pull back the inner fender liner, and you can see where there's a bolt right there. Use a 7mm socket, take that out. And do the same on the other side. And just grab right here and just forcefully pull out. Now we're going to pull the top off. It's just going to slide out like that. And just slide it out. And you want to disconnect the connector right here. Just pull down on that lock tab. Push down. Slide it out. There's a hose that goes to the washer fluid for the headlights. You just want to pop that hose off. And then put a cap on here just to prevent all the washer fluid from coming out. Using a trim tool, just pop this retainer off. pry that up. Pop that up and out of the way. Now using a 10mm socket, take these bolts out. There's a little bracket here. Slide the bracket off. Remove the wiring harness from this bracket. Just use a trim tool. Pop these off. Disconnect this connector. Slide this lock back and then push down on the tab. We're going to remove this bolt right here. Use a 13mm wrench and a ratchet wrench if you have one. And take that bolt out. Take these two bolts out. Use a 13mm socket. There's two bolts in here. Take these out with a 10mm socket. Just hold the bracket when you take that last one out. Slide that out. Grab the bracket and just slide it out of the way. Take this shield out of the way. Just use a trim tool. Pop the clips off. There's clips right here and down below. And that comes right out. Do the same on the other side. Take this shield off. Just using trim tools. Pop the clips out. Oops, it just popped out. Take the two upper brackets off. Use a 10mm socket. Those just slide up. On the top of the condenser, take these two screws out. Use a 10mm socket. Take this shield off, just use a trim tool, pop this push pin out. And it's just clipped in. Just using some needle nose pliers just to be able to pull it up. Take the upper radiator hose off, use the hose clamp pliers. Just wiggle the hose back and forth. Slide that out of the way. Take off the lower radiator hose. Just use the hose clamp pliers. Squeeze the hose clamp. And take that off. You might have a little bit of coolant coming out. Disconnect the connector for the fan. Just push down on the connector on the lock and slide it out. It's another connector right here. Push back on the lock tab. I'm just going to use a pick and then push down on the tab. Disconnect that connector. Connector right here, just push down on the tab. Slide it off. There's There's a retainer holding this big wiring harness on. Just want to slide that off. Just using a trim tool. That's off. Disconnect the transmission cooler lines. Just pop these little tabs off. And then if you have the special tool, you can use that to remove the clips, or just use a pick. Slide those clips out. Wiggle the line and pop it off. Do the same on the lower one. Slide that off. Pop that clip out. Grab the line. Slide it out. You're going to have a little bit of transmission fluid come out, so make sure you have a bucket underneath. And take the lines out of the retainer. Just pop those out of the way. Grab the radiator, slide it up. We'll just tip it. There's a little coolant. And just slide it out. We're going to swap the fan over to the new radiator. Use a 10mm socket. Take these two screws out. Just grab the fan and just slide it up. Take this clip off the bottom. And there's a shield right here. I'm going to pop that off, just using a trim tool. Pop those off. These lower radiator mounts, pop these out. Put the mounts on the new radiator. And this back shield, line that up. Put the push pins in. Put this clip on. Just get that in the general area. That's going to clip onto the fan. Move the fan over. This popped off, so I'm just going to slide that in place. That's good. There's a clip on the top as well. Take the two bolts, get those started. Those lined up. Snug those down. Now slide it back in position. Take the transmission lines, line those up. Slide the cap over, make sure they lock in place. In the upper line, lock that in. Slide the lower radiator hose on. Line the hose clamp up. Get in the right position and then unlock it. If it's locked, you can just use a straight blade screwdriver. Just watch your fingers. And the upper radiator hose, line that up. The clip. Release it. Just make sure it's secure all the way around. That's good. Put this shield in place. Clip it in down below. And push the retainer in. Take some of the J-nuts. We're going to slide one right there and on the other side. Take the condenser, line it up down below first. And put the bolts in. Connect the connectors for the fan right there. The top connector, push down on the lock, and the other connector on the other side. And where the retainer is, slide the retainer for the wiring harness back in place. Put these brackets in place. Put the bolts in. Tighten them down. Put this shield in place. Press it down. Put the side shields in place. Push the push pins in. Lock that down. Slide this bracket in place. I'm going to start with getting the center bolt in. And the other bolts. Slide these bolts in. Tighten those all down. And using a wrench, just tighten the last one down. Connect the connector, push the retainer in. Take this bracket, line that up. We have this smaller bracket. It's going to go under here. Get that bolt started. And this bolt. Line the other bolts up. Tighten those down. Push this retainer in place. Now get the bumper lined up. Take the hose for the headlight washers. Get that pushed in. The connector for the bumper. Line that up. Lock that down. And carefully slide the bumper in place. Push the sides in. Put the upper screws in place. Tighten those down. Slide this shield in place. Put the push pins in and lock them down. Get this screw in position. Line the inner fender screws up. Tighten those down. And do the same on the other side. Slide this shield in place. Put the bolts in. Put all the small screws in. Get all those started first before you're tightening any of them down. Tighten them down. the 3 screws on the side, get those started. And do the same on the other side. At this point, everything's buttoned up. You can add your coolant, fill it to the fill line, and then you want to run the vehicle for about 15 minutes so that it heats up, making sure that the vehicle is not overheating. Shut the vehicle down, and then adjust and check your level.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.